On today's video, we're going to talk about building this shaving horse. I found this hickory log out in my woods and I didn't want it to rot and go to waste, so I cut it to a length of about 5 or 6 feet. And then it was too heavy, so I used a saw and cut it, line through it there, and then used some wedges with my sons there. And we were able to split it into 2 pieces. And then I didn't feel like moving it, so I had my boys do some exercise and flip it out of the woods there.
Yeah. Again, man-child. Okay, you're going to straighten it towards mommy a little.
And then we loaded it up here on the 4-wheeler. Off to the wood shop. I removed the bark with an axe or with a draw knife, however I could get it off. And then I had to get one side flat. I couldn't run this through a joiner, so I used hand planes and I used winding sticks to get a flat surface that I could put on the bed of the plane. There I am looking at the winding sticks. The other one's not in the picture. Then my wife and I and my son put the hand planed end down on the bed of the planer, and we planed the other end flat. It was very heavy. You can see how much my son was struggling just to pick up the end of it. And then after we got it planed, it's just a beautiful piece. And it was kind of funny. There was worms in this wood, so live worms were getting cut by the planer. It's kind of gross. Here I took a piece of ash wood that I found in a ditch a few years ago. Thought that would be good for making some legs for this shaving horse. Then I'm just going to mark the center on the legs here so that I can mount it on the lathe and get the maximum amount of wood out of it. There it is, mounted on the lathe between centers. Here I'm just getting it roughed out. After I got it somewhat round, I gave it over to my son to do a little practice. He's using a skew chisel here. I think he used a detail spindle gouge also to make the legs. Here I am drilling the hole for the back leg, and I have an angle gauge there to kind of give me the proper angle to follow as an eye. And then once you drill all the way down and the tip of your auger just barely comes through, if you keep drilling, there's a good chance that that'll split out. So you want to flip it over and finish it off from the bottom. That way it will cut the fibers and not split them out. And then I just put the leg in the hole there. Here I am drilling the 2 holes for the front of the shaving horse and putting the legs in there. You can see the legs in there and just have to cut those off. Right here I'm making the square mortise, I guess, for what the I don't know what that's actually called. It's what holds the pivot arm there in place on the front pivot. I'll show you in the finished product. And I just used a draw knife and spoke shaves to just kind of round off the seat a little bit, and used a hand plane to kind of plane those, everything smooth, including the ends of those legs after I cut them off. Here's my daughter. She kind of joined me for some of it. I did make the bench a little narrower where you're going to sit so that your legs are not hitting it as much. Here's that contraption I was trying to explain. It slides down through that slot This is what the legs pivot on, the swinging legs that lock it down. So I had to drill a hole through that. I will say that was very difficult with the auger. I actually got the auger stuck. I think it was because of the wet wood and being so dense of hickory wood. But I did finally get it. And here's the legs mounted. And there I am practicing or trying it out. At the end of the video, I'll show you exactly how all that works. There's my daughter, Liberty, trying it out. And there's my son, Henry, playing with some bamboo that we have here on the farm. And he's trying it out there too. I took this to a outdoor event with a bunch of kids last year, 200 or 200, 300 kids. Got to get on there and play with it, and they seemed to enjoy it. It was a pretty good hit. Well, last year about this time I made a shaving horse, and I used some plans off the internet, and one of the things that I struggled with was just there was no measurements, and so I thought I'd make a video to kind of give you some measurements on the size I made, maybe some things I would change on my shaving horse. But it was set out all winter long, had some mold and stuff on it, so I just pressure washed it this morning. It's looking nice, and I'll show you some other things I'm going to do just to kind of spruce it up a little. But I'll show you the video of me making this last year. I really didn't take a video, but I've got some clips with me and the kids pulling out some logs. It's just an old hickory log that I found out in the woods, and I split it. My wife and I planed it down. It was very heavy when it was wet, and I did it with a green board, and I went ahead and put three legs in it. And then when it dried up, sitting out in the sun, it did split, which I expected, so I'm gonna put a dovetail back here to kind of fix that up. But I was gonna get some measurements. I think it worked out pretty well for me, size-wise. So, might need to oil these pegs. I turned these on the lathe. I turned this on the lathe, and you just get a log. So you just put your log in here, and then you step on it. And I've got that stretched out. That's kind of nice. And then you would sit here with your draw knife and draw knife this down. But if I wanted to make it where I don't have to push my legs as far, just slide this board a little further in, kind of like that. And now I'm right there immediately. Okay. And if you want to twist it, just let up, twist your log around, back down. Okay. And then that's very stable in. Just a normal old shaving horse. I did. I got this removable, so these are just put in with pegs, and I went ahead and put another size in case I ever wanted to do something that was really big. I could fit it in here and still hold it. I don't know that I'll ever use that, but I made it for the future. Let me get you some measurements on this. So the overall length of this shaving horse is about 5'2", 5'3", and the distance from the end here to the pivot point is somewhere around 2 feet, okay? About 23.5 inches. So that puts it to the end of the bench, to the pivot point, is about 39 inches. And that's got me here, so I can actually scoot back. That's too far. So you could make this a little shorter. But I think right here, so that would still be okay. And I'm 6 foot tall. But that gives me about 5 or 6 inches back here, about 7 inches extra space. That's about where I would want to be. I can scoot back though. I guess the reason I might scoot back is if I can't reach a peg, so you can't scoot back much more than that. So you could make this a little shorter than the measurements I gave you. This piece here is 30 inches. That's the board that it's on, is 30 inches. The width here of this is about 9 inches. It's a little wider up here on the end. It's about 11.5 inches. The reason you would make that bigger is it allows you to put your legs a little further out, which would give you some more stability. What would I change on this shaving horse? One thing I would change, I made this a 3-leg shaving horse, mainly because anytime you have 3 legs, like a 3-legged stool, you don't have to be on level ground. It will always sit level or sit stable, even if you're like, if you pulled out in the yard or you take it somewhere. And I built this to take for kids to sit on and use at events and things. And so that's why I did a 3-legged stool. If you did a 4-legged shaving horse, you know, you might have some rocking where it's just not level. The wider you make this, the further out these legs can be, and the more angled out you could make them. I really needed to make these probably a little wider angled out because this is a little unstable for my liking. It's okay for me as an adult, but getting kids on it, I don't like it as well. But I really don't think I want the 2 legs out here. So I think I could get that with just making those stick out a little further like that instead of like this, and that would give me some more stability. So that's what I would change on it. Other than that, I don't think I would change anything. It works pretty good. It's very functional. I made it pretty much, this was some leftover wood from my workbench, but the rest of it was just an old log that was rotting out in the woods anyway. And I think this was just some ash that I found that I was probably going to make rolling pins out of. So I found these ash boards and I made them into like baseball shape. That's not important, mainly because I got a big end on the bottom there. So if you were in a wet yard or a wet environment, it's a bigger base, so it won't, you know, the weight of you sitting on it won't make it sink into the mud. There's just some different angles here. So if I let up my feet here, that takes off the pressure. I can rotate that anywhere I want. And now it's secure when I push my feet in, pick it up, rotate it, right like that. This is what I was showing. I can make this and bring it up here if I want to put something bigger in here, but I don't know that I'll ever do that. See if I get a look here from a different angle. So here's what's splitting on the back, which I expected this to happen because it was dry. So I'm just gonna come in here and put a dovetail and hold this together. I think it's not going anywhere, but just for looks and make sure it doesn't change over time with the sun, I'm gonna go ahead and put a dovetail in there. But there's some good looks at that. I'll try to get you some other measurements here. And this whole mechanism here can be removed by, all you have to do is take a hammer here and hit this wedge. If I can get there, just hit this wedge with a hammer and that'll pop that out. And then this whole sleeve would just pull right up out of there if you ever want to remove that for any reason, something breaks or something. So I think that's kind of nice. I again built with some I think this was kind of stupid really, but I thought maybe I would want to make this be able to come up higher to change the angle, but I don't think I'll ever do that. So really I could probably just come in here and cut this off right here and save that wood, make something else out of it. Let's see here. There we go. About 23 inches on the leg part. The inside here is about 10. Now the bottom of these feet is about a foot. Yeah, the bottom of my feet are only a foot apart. So I think if you could get the bottom of your feet to be more like 15 or 16 inches apart, yeah, just a little bit extra would give you a lot more stability. So that's what I would recommend if you were doing a 3-legged, which is the way I did it. And then if I can get an overhead here, you can kind of see it. And here I just cut this out so you kind of have a nice bench seat area. It's a beautiful piece of hickory, that's why I picked it out. Made a very functional shaving horse. Kids loved it when I took it to an event last year. They played on it. Kids would whittle those logs down, try to make things. It's a really good project, and you can probably make this all of this out of wood that's pretty cheap, because you could do it with green wood. You could even do all of this with green wood, with logs if you wanted. I'm sure people have done creative styles. I'm trying to make sure I gave you every measurement, all the height. So let me give you the height. So the height to the top is about 20 inches on mine. So the height of mine was about 20 inches tall from the ground up to the part that you're sitting on. And so what I would recommend, if you are taller than me, because I'm 6 feet, I would make your legs a little longer and then just cut them off, you know, 1/2 inch or 1 inch at a time until you got the height that you want. So if mine's about 20 inches, make it to where yours is going to be 21, 22 inches high. You could also just sit on some benches or stools if you have some around and see what's comfortable for you. But hopefully that those specs help you as you build your own shaving horse. And if you get into building one, you got questions, comment, let me know. I'll be glad to help you out. Thanks.